Good afternoon, good evening, good zint, good y'all, whatever it may be where you are. I'm not Sports Cards. Hope you're doing well. Remember to like and subscribe. Every new subscriber this month, we're going to do a new video. Um, on this episode of Not Sports Cards, I'm going to talk about shill bidding. What makes an auction shilled and where is the line? It's been going around the internet of different people talking about shilling, and it's a question I ask myself. And I do think it's not as simple and as easy as some people make it out to be. So let's dive in. I want to look at what I see as the three different levels of what makes up a shill bid versus what is not a shill bid. So when I look at shill bidding, I look at three things: intent, coordination, and result, right? So intent means, what are you trying to do? Like, because I think, again, to determine whether something is shilled or it's just a bid that is involved in some sort of informed decision or loose connection. I mean, not obviously all this falls into the gray area. The question is, where is the line? But intent, it's like, are you trying to create a fake comp? Right? That clearly is shilling. Like, if you're trying to manipulate the market and to create a price that is irregular, that is shilling. A different type of intent would be to enforce a floor. So, and I definitely do this. And what I call enforcing a floor, and love to hear your opinions on this, is if there's a card I own, I'm like, I'm not going to let it sell for below X price. And that's where we'll get into intent. Is like, yeah, I'm pushing the price up, but I'm willing to buy it. So, and if you, that's why all three levels of intent, coordination, and result matter. So, if you're trying to clearly create fake information for other people to do things off of, I think that's clearly shilling. If you're enforcing a floor, then I don't know what is really wrong with that. Now, okay, I've heard people say, well, if you are slowly pushing up a price, that you're showing more activity on an item, and therefore it will get pushed to the front. Okay, that's where we have to get into coordination, right? So coordination is like, how is there communication between the seller and a bidder, or between two bidders, right? If a seller says, hey, bid up my card, that is, could be shilling. And that, again, will, like, the level of this gets to result. It's like intent, coordination, result. So the other part of coordination is bidder to bidder, right? If you and I both own a card, and this is about what your intent is like, we're like, oh, let's bid back and forth. Because in truth, to make an auction price go up, you need two people. And I want to actually bring in a separate part of coordination and intent that is caused overall. So there's difference between eBay, big auction houses. Big auction houses have their own set of guidelines. Each one of them has different rules of whether you can bid on your own card or not. And I think it's important to introduce the idea of reserves at this point. So if you're not familiar with it, a reserve is, hey, I have a card I want to sell, but it has to sell for at least a minimum of $1,000. So if it doesn't go over $1,000, I'm not selling it. And like Dr. James Beckett and whatever that guy's name, they were mixing that in. And I think it's an important factor of to consider, which is, if you're bidding the price below the reserve number, all you're doing is that it's just not going to sell. Now, eBay, I've long had a problem with eBay's reserve system. So again, it's the same thing. It's if I put a card up for auction, but I say the reserve is $100. If it doesn't go over $100, the card doesn't sell. On eBay, the reason I don't like that is that if I bid $100 and nobody bids 99, I don't get to buy the card. So, like, I can't get to the reserve on my own. So that is part of the problem with the reserves of, like, if you have somebody who's literally willing to pay the reserve, but, and again, depending on the auction house rules or the eBay rules, like, they actually won't be able to pay the price they want to pay for the card if somebody doesn't bid it up. I'm not saying that like, that is probably more auction houses. eBay, actually, as I said, I have a problem is because many times people don't use it nearly as much anymore because a lot of people don't like to bid when there's a reserve. And that gets back into the other things. I think auction houses feel the same way. Is they want people to have no reserve because it actually spurns activity. People don't like to bid when they don't know if they're actually going to get the item for the price they're being. They feel like they're wasting their time. So it's, it's a give and take on reserve. And you can understand why people would want to reserve is like, hey, there's a huge snowstorm or something, a huge power outage, internet outage. And something happens and my $100,000 card now sells for $20,000. You might be like, tough luck. But then those people will be like, well, then we're just going to start the auction at $100,000. And then there's a lot of dynamics to auction. I'm not defending any of this. I'm just explaining the way that goes into it, and that in the end, you want to build a better system. But as I mentioned, coordination matters. Is that if a seller is talking to a buyer going, bid up my cards, it gets back to the intent is why are they doing that? Are they doing it because they want to push it towards the reserve so that it actually gets sold? Then that's more in a gray area than if they just are trying to run somebody up, or yet again, they're trying to create a fake comp. And if you have bidders coordinating saying, let's push this price up, as high as we can because we own the card, that is different as well. And that I want to bring in the last part, which is the result, because this all loops back together, which is what does the result end up being? In the end, is the card purchased? And is it a real purchase? Meaning, I'll give you the example of where I get into this. I'll have a friend say to me, hey, I'm auctioning a card. That is the extent of the coordination of or communication. I'm auctioning this card. It's a card that I have or I want, and I'll bid it up. I'll bid it up, but I bid it up with the intent of paying for it at the price that it does. The seller has not said, hey, will you bid up my card? And the result will be, if I win, I pay and I get the card. There are other things, the other options would be, I win, bad actors would be, I win the card and I don't pay. And, on an auction site, maybe not like eBay does have a way of showing whether sales are completed, but even that's not real. I had a friend who had an issue with shipping to somebody last week where the person was in Canada and they paid for the item and they said, hey, this is going to go this type of shipping. Can you cancel it and change it so that I can buy it with international shipping? And I was curious to see what happened to that original sale. And that original sale shows up as a completed sale. And that money would have just gone back to that person and nobody would have known. So there's a pure way to manipulate eBay through the canceled sale after the payment. Now, I'm sure this would affect people's eBay accounts. I don't really know the ins and the outs of that. But like even the things that we trust to be true are probably not. And the other result could be that like, I actually pay for the card. It's shipped to me and then I send it back to you and you send me the money back so that like, you were just trying to protect yourself or you're trying to create a fake comp and that you were just using me as a shill. You were just using me as some sort of straw man in the situation to create higher prices. So, like I said, I do things like enforcing a floor. If it's a card I own and that I'm like, I'm not going to let it go this cheap. Or again, if I have a friend who puts a card up, I'm like, hey, I'm going to support my friend and I'll bid it up. And if it goes cheap, I buy it. We don't then cancel the sale and then do it off eBay, or we don't coordinate and say, hey, could you push it to this price? It's just, hey, I don't want my buddy to get a bad price and I'm willing to buy this card at that price. I don't, if there's no coordination there, if there's no, hey, I don't like the price I'm getting, can you push it up? No, it's just in my mind, hey, that card is a good deal and I like the person who's selling it. So, everybody could have different definitions of this, and that's why I ask where the line is. To me, enforcing a floor that has the intent of buying a card but not forcing a comp, not forcing an upward comp, it's just saying, basically, if I didn't know the person, I would. That's an interesting point. Okay? I just thought about it. I said, if I didn't know the person, would I act any differently? That is where I would say that it is a gray area. Because if it were. No, that's not true. Okay, so what I'm saying, so follow me for a second, is that if it were somebody I didn't know and I just wanted to buy the card as cheap as possible, I would put a snipe in. I would just say, okay, here's my max bid, and then and then if I can buy it, I can buy it. The other thing is, like, I'm kind of like, hey, I want the market to value this card, and I'm going to push the bid up. If I end up buying it, I end up buying it, right? Like, but I don't think that's shilling, because my intent is to price the floor. But like, there's something called walking up bids, and they say that's for shills, where like you kind of just, somebody bids 50, you bid 55. Now it's at 60, you bid 65. You don't put in your max number. Like, I never do that on, on eBay. I do that with the snipe for psychological reasons. If I get in battles with an anonymous person that's out there, I'm like, oh, you don't think I'll pay this much for a card? And then I end up just bidding up for no reason. But I do think that is, for me personally, is a bit of a gray area. But I will walk up items that aren't mine, right? And that's the intent of, like, I'm just enforcing a floor. I don't necessarily want to buy the card, but I will buy the card. Because if you don't ever back out of the purchase, what does it matter if you walk up an item versus you snipe it? That's just, I think it's strategy. And I actually want to do a video at some point about card collecting is competitive. It is. It's competitive in a sense of whether you can buy the right cards that come up infrequently, or you can pay less than other people so that you can sell at different prices. This is a competitive hobby. It is the community on top of it. At the same time, I have very good friends. We compete for cards. So there are some cards where we kind of don't even mention because we're hoping nobody else will see them, and we can just snipe in and get them. So I think it's a little more complicated than this. And like, listening to the Dr. James Beckett and some of the influencers talk is like, I get it. I do think that there is a lot of price manipulation, but I think we need to clearly draw the distinction between, I guess, murder and a speeding ticket, right? And I think that's the point here, is if people are literally trying to run up prices in fake sales to create more capital, is entirely different than somebody who's just enforcing a floor. And that really, like, gets back into the real thing of intent, coordination, and result. And that's my take on it. I'd love to hear your opinion. Like, comment, subscribe. Small YouTube channel like myself. We really appreciate the subscribers. I'm very close to hitting 1,500. And when I do, I'm going to give away my dog, Albert. Albert, you're going away. No, I'm kidding. We'll do something fun. We're like 10 subscribers away, so you'll do it. Please, I appreciate it. Yeah, and again, comment. Let me know what you think, because, hey, this is not hard and fast. It's a gray area. I'm not sports cards, and I am out.